Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. It's that time of the year again, that special time, a time that makes us look back fondly at the months that have passed and look forward just as fondly to the months yet to come. Nah, I don't mean Christmas, I mean my annual video where I confess to all of you just how many watches I've bought over the course of the last 12 months. For the last 3 years, I've been trying to balance the content on the channel by making 3 videos a week. One with a bought watch, one with a borrowed watch, and one with a sponsored watch. Roughly. Now that means I'm going to have to buy 52 watches every year if I want to achieve that, an average of 1 watch per week. And do you know how many I bought last year? Well, you do if you watched that video, exactly 52. And as the anniversary of that video approached and I thought about this year's video, I thought there was no way I had bought as many. But when I counted them up, lo and behold, I bought another 52 watches this year. Now, many of those were bought knowing that I would review them and then sell them in short order. So please don't be offended if I recommended something to you and you find out today that I flipped it. Not only would I not be able to get into my house because of all the watches if I had to keep everything that I reviewed, I would also not be able to afford the rent in said house. But this is me, I'm fairly ridiculous and I have got a YouTube channel after all. That's my excuse anyway. What did you buy this year? Is it possible that you bought more watches than I did? Leave me a comment, let me know your best and worst pickups of the year so far. So then another 52 watches this year. What were they and where are they now? Okay, I'm going to squeeze over to one side today, meaning I can put the watch number, model name and/or number and thumbnail on screen at the same time as me. Just like that. The first watch then was this I&W that I described as the classiest looking diver you could buy for under $100 because I genuinely believe that it is. It's a 40mm dress diver with a Seiko NH36 in sapphire crystal, but with some slightly dubious branding. I mean, Carnival? Why? It got sold because this isn't Pokemon, you don't have to catch them all. At number 2 is the first Seiko of the year, but by no means the last, and I bought this one knowing that it was likely to disappoint me. So to that end, it didn't disappoint me, if you see what I mean. It's the SRP-H, and I couldn't understand why they made it so similar to the SRP-G. I mean, the SNK and the SNZ-H were so different to each other, but not these two. That's quite enough Seiko reference numbers for a few minutes. Not a bad watch by any stretch, but not a huge leap forward over its predecessors, apart from, of course, the price. This one got sold, no surprises there. Number 3 is the first of many AliExpress purchases for the year. It was the PAGANI Tiffany OP lookalike. Now, you can tell this one was made a while ago. At the very peak of the grey market bubble, a 41mm Tiffany OP sold over here for 69,999 Australian dollars, hence the thumbnail. I wonder how much money that buyer has now lost on that watch. I bought the Pagani purely to make that video. I probably lost $30 when I sold it on. At number 4, it's a watch that I would imagine many of you picked up, if not this year, then perhaps the year before, 2021. It's the Tissot PRX. I actually bought 2 PRX this year. The first I included in this double unboxing. I bought the 40mm in quartz, not just because I'm tight, I promise you. The automatic PRX costs double what the quartz PRX does. I just don't therefore see the value in the auto, I see the value in the quartz. Plus I have quite enough automatics in my collection already, and I love the brush dial on this silver model. What happened to the PRX? Drum roll please. I've still got it. At number 5, it's the second watch from that double unboxing video, a Bulova Aerojet. Now, I am like a moth to Bulova's flame. I know I'm going to get burned, but I just keep coming back to this brand. This is an almost amazingly gorgeous watch, and I got it for a bit of a steal, but I just can't help but think that Bulova shoot at least one of their feet every single time. So I got Glyn Reynolds to do me a mock-up of just that. I sold that Bulova, but I'd be back in a heartbeat if they just cleaned up the looks. Next up is a kind of 2-for-1. I had bought a watch on AliExpress with the intention of savaging it on a Sunday roast, but realised that it was in fact a fake Seiko. I thought the best thing to do therefore was to pull it apart and turn it into something else. I therefore bought a $25 jellyfish case, swapped the movement, dial and hands as they were, one of the simplest mods I've ever done, but one of the flimsiest cases I have ever seen. I've still got that one, maybe I'll turn it into something else in the future. Moving on to number 8, the Casio Aquaterra chronograph. Now, I reviewed the three-handed version of that watch back in 2021, a watch that is still in my collection and a watch that I highly rate, so I thought I would take a look at the big brother. I picked up one of these from a dealer over in the Netherlands. It's bigger and not as clean in terms of design, but it's still a watch I would recommend if you are in the market for a sub $100 chronograph. I kept the three-hander, but I sold the six-hander. At number 9, it was one of my most frustrating purchases of the year. Apart from the Bulova Aerojet, obviously, it's the Casio Oceanus 4000. Specifically the OCW-T4000C-3AJF. I bought this one directly from Japan. All Oceanus are JDM only, and I bought it because it was green, or at least it should have been green. The watch that actually arrived varied somewhere between stunning azure blue and muddy swamp. Such a shame because it is a stunning watch for the price they charge. Full of tech, beautifully finished titanium, and a great size for me. I hung on to it for 6 months, but the colour was just too much of a disappointment, and I sold quite a few of my JDM quartz to buy one really special JDM quartz. More on that later. Watch number 10 is hands down one of the best buys that I made all year, the watch on my wrist. It didn't actually get a full review, but I featured it in a somewhat cryptic double unboxing the same weekend that the MoonSwatch launched. I think people thought I'd bought a MoonSwatch because the video was far more popular than I had anticipated it being. The watch is a Casio GW-B5600, for me the ultimate G-Shock. Classic square design, straight from the early 80s, my favourite decade, but now with Bluetooth technology to link it to your phone and to keep it super accurate. I kind of worked my way towards this particular square G over the last 3 or 4 years. First battery, then solar, and now finally Bluetooth solar. Suffice to say, I've still got it. It's as secure as any watch in my collection ever can be. Now, if watch number 10 was hands down one of the best buys I made all year, watch number 11 was hands down one of the worst buys I made all year. I bought a MoonSwatch in the car park of a petrol station at about 11 PM on the first day that they were released. I paid $1,150 in cash for it, which was exactly 3 times the retail price, and I did it so I could give it away to one of you. I got sucked in by the MoonSwatch hype and turned up in Sydney city centre only to see thousands of people in a queue stretching several city blocks. I went home again and went back to bed, and frankly, so should most of those people. But I had so wanted to give one away that I paid through the teeth for it several hours later after finding one on Gumtree. That led to the deeply dubious after dark encounter, but I have no regrets. I wrote the purchase off against tax and I at least managed to make one person very happy. Until that is, they opened the box and actually put the thing on their wrist. Talk about the Emperor's new clothes. I haven't sought to buy a second Moonwatch. Put it that way. At number 12, it's a cheeky little watch that I've had one eye on for several years before I bought it. It's the Armitron Griffey, a $35 watch that makes the equivalently priced Casio feel a bit cheap by comparison and makes every single other LED watch look like a massive rip-off by comparison. The reason I hadn't bought one sooner is because they weren't available to buy freely in Australia. That all changed when I found one on amazon.com.au and bought it. A really fun little piece available in a bunch of different colours. So do I still have it? Actually, I don't. My sister came over here on holiday mid-year, spotted it and asked if she could have it. Who am I to say no to my sister? She left the country with several other watches as well. Stay tuned. Next up is the second Seiko purchase of the year, and I admit, another one I had no intention of keeping for any longer than it took to make the video. It was the Seiko range that nobody ever talked about. The Seiko Premier range. A slightly bizarre looking quartz chronograph. I didn't pay all that much money for it at least, and at least it had sapphire crystal. Now I know why I bought it, but I'm not sure I know why anyone else would buy it. Alright, we're heading towards late April for watch number 14. It was a Triwa made from recycled ocean plastic. A really nice idea, and one we see at various other points in the watch market as well, from the likes of Oris and Maurice Lacroix. The watch was okay at best, and when a quick look at the company's model range revealed one watch made out of reclaimed illegal firearms and one watch that came with a donation to mental health charities, both worthy causes of course, but the cynic in me began to wonder if Triwa are more about virtue signalling than actually trying to clean up the oceans. I sold it to someone else who was looking for a bright blue watch. They got one. Number 15 is a watch that you made me buy, or at least that's what I said on the thumbnail, to make myself feel a little better about dropping some serious coin on a Hamilton Intramatic chronograph. What a gorgeous watch this is though. I had a white dial on loan earlier this year which prompted me to buy my own black dial. I am a sucker for this retro look and the Hamilton nails it perfectly because it's a copy and paste of an old model of theirs from the 1950s. I went for the manual wind version rather than the automatic because it's an occasional wear watch for me. I like the lack of date and crucially the manual winder was slimmer. Not slim though, coming in at just under 15mm. The Hamilton is still here, the Hamilton is going nowhere fast. Next up is a watch I bought purely to compare it with another watch. It's a Citizen Eco Drive that looks a lot like a Cadison. I paid just over $200 to buy the Citizen from a dealer in Italy, my first and to date my only Chrono 24 purchase. I paid that money to ask and then answer a question. Did China copy Japan, or in a rare occurrence, was the Cadison first? Did Japan in fact copy China? What do you think happened? You're right. I could have saved myself $200 if I'd done a bit more googling. The Citizen predated the Cadison by several years. I sold the Citizen for a heavy loss. Watch number 17 is one of a number of Citizens that I have bought and then sold over the last couple of years. I find myself struggling to really connect with the brand, and indeed even this chunky but funky retro diver that I got for 50% off, so normally right up my street, didn't last more than a couple of weeks before I sold it on. There is one more Citizen at the back end of the list that might change that pattern of catch and release. At 18, it was a watch I had to buy purely because of the movement in the back of it and the price they were charging. $199 for my first ever deep blue, plus a chunk of shipping I admit, but for that price I got a big diver with a Swiss automatic movement in the back, a Sellita SW200-1 no less, but it all started to go downhill from there I'm afraid. The watch itself was weird with a useless bezel and funny looks overall, and I wasn't convinced the dial was straight. I sold it to an Aussie local who bought it after watching my video. He loves it, each to their own. Following the deep blue, I bought a watch because I'd been given another watch for free. The ever generous Adam, aka Blue Moose Racing on Instagram, sent me his Casio G-Shock GBD 200 as a gift, and I really liked it. It's the smartwatch you wear when you're not wearing a smartwatch. It has fitness tracking capabilities, a pedometer, and hands down the best negative display I've ever seen on a Casio. But I made it quite clear in the video that I wasn't a fan of orange, yellow and grey. So I bought a black one, sent the orange one to my friend Ashley in Melbourne, who then sent Adam, I think it was a Vostok or something, as a thank you. Everyone's happy, right? Everyone except me. I never settled with the black one and I sold it as new. Maybe I should have kept the ugly orange one after all. Okay, at number 20, a watch that I picked up this year but I haven't actually made a video about. But the pickup was inspired by a watch that I did make a video about. The best $350 dive watch that you can't buy is the Helm Vanuatu Titanium. The best $300 dive watch that you can't buy is the Helm Vanuatu in stainless steel. I've had one before but sold it because it was just too big for me. Oddly enough, it's still too big for me, but it's a watch that is such a benchmark I feel I have to have one in my collection for reference, hence the rebuy. Now at 21, it's the second Tissot PRX that I bought this year, a 35mm this time, in exactly the same colourway as the 40 that I bought a few months before. I bought it pretty much to make this video and because I was genuinely interested to see how the two watches would compare on my average size wrist. The comment section was split down the middle. Half of you thought the 35 looked better, half of you thought the 40 looked better. A tough decision for me then. Enter my sister again. She swooped on the 35, meaning I kept the 40, but that's not to say I didn't enjoy the 35. My perfect PRX though is the yet to be released 37.5, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that sentiment. Watch 22 then, when I made the video about the Seiko range nobody ever talks about, someone said, hey Jody, there's a Casio range nobody ever talks about as well. So I bought one with the intention of talking about it. I now see why nobody else does. It's a Casio beside a bizarre looking 3-register chronograph with 3 tiny registers all running along the bottom of the dial. Now in the comments section some people came out in defence of the Casio beside range, and hey, if you've got one and you love it, then I'm really happy for you. Mine is still lurking in the drawer of shame simply because I haven't got around to selling it yet. At number 23 it's another Seiko, and hang on to your hats folks, I didn't buy it with the intention of giving it a hard time and then selling it. It's a watch I described as the most important new Seiko in years, and I stand by that 100%. It's the SSK, aka the 5KX, and it features the new 4R34 GMT movement. Now perhaps you noticed a discrepancy. The thumbnail shows an orange watch, but the footage from that video shows a black watch. I was desperate to get an orange watch, but I could only get a black one in time for the video, so I bought it, but then I sold it and bought the orange one that I wanted in the first place. That'll be watch number 24 then. At number 25 it's a watch that punches massively above its weight in terms of fit and finish. It's the second Casio Oceanus on the list. It is the T200. Now I ordered a green one from Japan again, and my heart was pounding when I opened the box, let me tell you, and inside I found a green watch. Thank f for that. I could not have coped with the disappointment of another muddy grey dial. A truly cracking watch this one for around 400 US. Solar, Bluetooth, perpetual calendar, great loom, and it's a Casio, a brand quite obviously very near and dear to my heart. The first watch I ever owned was a Casio, and I've owned countless of their models since then. Do I still own this one? Well, yes I do for now at least. It survived the JDM cull, but I'll be honest, it might not be in my collection this time next year. At number 26, halfway, it's another watch that I've owned and then sold, but really feel I ought to have one in my collection as a bit of a benchmark. It's the Orient Komatsu. I rated it highly when I first reviewed it, and I still rate it highly 3 years on. It's not perfect, but for under $200, it's the best big brand diver you can buy. This blue one used to belong to Mr. P, but now it belongs to me. At 27, this is Seiko number 4 for the year. It was really cheap, but was it really cheap because it was broken? I picked up a Street Series Tuna Solar Quartz for only 220 Aussie dollars. I felt that I'd bought then sold my previous Tuna a bit too quickly, and 220 was so much cheaper than I'd ever seen one before. But have a look at the second hand. This footage is running at normal speed, by the way. The second hand is not running at normal speed. Thankfully, it's now fine. I think it just needed a bit of extra light exposure. It's not a new model, this one, and I think it had been sitting in the box for a while, waiting for me, its new owner, to claim it. And am I still its owner? Yes, indeed I am. And I've got a piece of double-domed sapphire crystal with blue AR undercoating ready to install in a future video. Moving on to a Citizen. So from a Casio to an Orient to a Seiko to a Citizen, you can see the stuff that I buy for the channel then, can't you? And it's another eco drive with ridiculous on-paper appeal. It certainly ticked a lot of boxes. An ISO rated titanium GMT eco drive for under $300. But like so many Citizens, it was just too big and too chunky for me personally, and I felt all of the hands were just a little bit off, so it got sold. Next up it's watches 29, 30, 31 and 32, and they're all the same. They're all the Casio AE1200 that I bought from amazon.com.au for around 50 Aussie each. And I bought 3 of the 4 to give away. I made a video about these mod kits from a company called SKX Mods. They were only supposed to send me 2 kits, but they sent me 6. What am I going to do with 6 modded Casio Royales? So I bought 4 fresh watches, kept 1 for myself, and gave the other 3 away. Having said that, it does now mean I own 3 Casio Royales. Perhaps 6 wouldn't have been much of a stretch after all. At 33, it's a watch that is a little bit of an enigma. It's the new 38mm Orient Bambino. Finally, for me, the perfect Orient Bambino. I picked up the hard to get creamy parchment dial version with the brown strap. It fits my wrist beautifully and it looks simply magnificent. I think you'll agree. After years of Bambinos that were either too big or too small, finally this Goldilocks has found the right one. So where is it, Jody? Well, I've still got it, but it's in a box over there somewhere. I haven't really worn it and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe taking it out of the box and putting it into a watch box might help to remind me that I actually own it. I've got no plans to sell it, but equally, at the moment, I've got no plans to wear it either. Weird. So if the Bambino was a watch I bought to keep but haven't worn, at number 34 it's a watch that I bought to sell but ended up wearing a lot. It's the Casio Oceanus S100, the third Oceanus on today's list. I bought this one used and I did a deal with Ashley before I'd even bought it. I was like, hey, one of these has come up, the guy wants $450 for it, I'll buy it, make a couple of videos and sell it to you for $400. How does that sound? And it sounded good to Ashley, so I bought it. What a cracking little watch this thing is. Not the perfect quartz according to the thumbnail, but really not far off. Great size, great shape, titanium, light, great lume, and to the second accurate, even without the assistance of Bluetooth or the atomic clock. Now I did sell it on to Ashley though, but it's one watch on today's list that I will remember my time with very fondly. Next up, it's another Seiko, but this time it's something a little bit different. Not a new model. I quite deliberately bought an old, discontinued Seiko just to see how good the Seikos from 5 years ago actually were. And you know what? They were pretty good. I paid about 500 Aussie dollars for this one plus delivery. It was 5 years old, but it was in great shape. It looked like it hadn't been worn all that much. Sadly, I didn't wear it all that much either, and I sold it to fund this mystery JDM purchase that I've talked about a couple of times. Now I haven't done any installments of the Epic Dial Typo series this year, but I did have a right pop at the listing for this Red Star bullhead chronograph. Proof, as if it were needed again, that Google Translate doesn't always get it right. The AliExpress listing was an absolute mess with word nails and of course a cowhead facial skeleton. The watch though wasn't a joke, it was really quite good. I haven't worn it much, but I haven't sold it either. But this next watch was bought for a video and is lurking in a corner somewhere looking sheepish, waiting for me to sell it. It's the Alba Tuna lookalike. Now I got it for a great price, I got it for 100 Aussie dollars, but actually that's only a great price if it's a great watch, and I just don't think it is. Alba are a Seiko sub-brand, but sub is the operative word there. It's alright, but once you've dabbled on AliExpress as much as I have, you know that you can get a lot more than just alright for 100 Aussie dollars. At 38, it's a watch that I claimed was the world's best value watch as of October the 2nd, 2022. I put my money where my mouth is by buying one. It's a two-tone Tissot PR100 that JOMASHOP were selling for under $250. It features the Powermatic 80 automatic movement, sapphire crystal, a bit of lume on the hands and a usable bracelet, all for under 250 bucks. Perhaps I should have waited another couple of months before I made that video because they've dropped the price further still. I've still got mine. If you like the look of it, you should grab one too. Now at 39 and 40, it's a pair of new arrivals from my personal collection, both by the brand Formex. Now they did give me a deal on these, they gave me a discount, but I still paid money for them, so they are still legitimately featuring on today's list. Now the Essence Leggera is not cheap for what it is, but what it is amazing. A super light, super comfortable Swiss-made chronometer with a carbon fibre case, titanium movement holder and ratcheting on the fly deployant. Quite possibly the most comfortable watch I have ever worn, and now in the perfect size for my wrist. Now the Reef GMT is completely different in style, but it's just as stunning to look at. It now features a swappable bezel and a chronometer grade Sellita 334 hander, fantastic lume and another patented on the fly adjustable clasp. It is priced on par with the Oris Aquis GMT, but frankly it would eat the Oris Aquis GMT for breakfast. Both watches are waiting patiently for full reviews. At 41, it's a watch that I bought with the clear intention of savaging on a Sunday. I think I did a reasonable job, don't you? What a piece of junk, pretending to be about 5 different things but failing to be the one thing that it should have been: a decent watch. It's another one that I would sell, but for the fact that I would feel bad for any prospective new owner. I think it will be lurking therefore in the drawer of shame for some time. Okay, we're almost up to present day, but there are still 11 watches left. The first two are very similar. They're both Casio AQ800s, their latest Ani Digi Delight, and so economically viable, I decided to buy 2 of them. Having said that, I will probably sell the silver one and keep the gold one, because if you're gonna go 80s, you might as well go all in, right? Talking of going all in, I went all in at the last AliExpress sale, the big 11/11 sale. I spent over 800 on 3 different watches. 2 hits, one was a big miss in every sense of the term. I bought another Steel Dive 1970, this time in black, for a mere 104 Aussie dollars delivered. Just ridiculous value, especially when you compare it to the likes of the Alba. The two watches are just miles apart despite being essentially Seiko homages. The second watch I bought is this stunning little Baltony chronograph. 145 US dollars makes it one of the best dollar for dollar purchases of the year. I absolutely love it. In fact, I'm struggling to find fault with it, apart from one problem. I hear it has now been discontinued. If you know differently, please leave me a comment. It would be such a shame if they stopped making this one because, frankly, it's amazing. Something that cannot be said of the Epoch tritium watch that I bought for well over 400 Aussie. It sucks. It's big, it's ugly, it's uncomfortable, and it's gonna get pulled apart and put into a new case. The tritium tubes are indeed as much fun as I was hoping that they would be, but that's the only fun I've had from that particular purchase so far anyway. Now the next 4 watches are all AliExpress purchases that I haven't quite got around to doing anything with just yet. I do get a bit excited at these sales sometimes and buy more than I actually have time to review. And that's the case for the North Edge Mars. I even got the thumbnail made up, but I still haven't got around to it. Now the Steel Dive 1975 Tuna lookalike, that one has made a cameo but is yet to feature in an individual review. And the slightly odd looking Art Deco Cadison with Romans and an unusual handset, again I got a thumbnail made up for that one but haven't actually reviewed it. In fact, did I sell it? If you don't see it again, perhaps it's because I sold it. And the Bernie. How can I resist something called a Bernie, especially as it's also the cheapest compressor case style diver I've ever seen, coming in at just over $70. I bought the yellow one. It's also lurking around this room somewhere, throwing me the occasional dirty look for ignoring it for the last 6 months. 2 to go then, one I have talked about on the channel before and one that I haven't. I made a very personal video a couple of weeks ago about my own struggles in further education when I was in my teens and my early 20s and how that affected me in later life. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for the overwhelmingly positive reception that video received. It actually does mean quite a lot to me. So many likes, so many comments, a lot of them from people who found themselves in a similar position to me. But the video wasn't a total downer. It did have a happy ending. In fact, it had 2 happy endings, a doctorate and a Tudor Black Bay 58. The same one that I had reviewed earlier on in the year. Absolutely stunning. I am completely in love with it, which is just as well considering it's the most expensive watch that I have ever bought. And finally, the watch that is so new I haven't made a video about it yet. It's responsible for the sale of the Oceanus 4000 and the Seiko Sarks. It's a Citizen, the Citizen Chronomaster, and it's amazing. This video is already too long, so I won't go on forever here, but I have been getting into Japanese high accuracy solar quartz this year, especially in titanium, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the zenith of that, I believe. Plus or minus 5 seconds a year. Perpetual calendar, eco drive, handmade washi paper dial, less than 80 grams as it sits on my wrist. Drop dead gorgeous. Now I got it from Japan and I got it for 1,000 Aussie, less than the next cheapest price I could find. But it was still a big purchase for me, and as you saw, several sacrifices were made. Several overlapping pieces were sold to fund this one. No regrets though, it's beautiful. Full review coming soon. So there you have it, 52 weeks, 52 watches. That is ridiculous, isn't it? Now many have come and gone, but a select few have become part of my permanent collection, in inverted commas. What were your favourites? What did you love? What did you hate? What should I not have sold and what should I have sold instead? As always, I look forward to reading your comments, and between you and me, I'm looking forward to buying another 52 watches next year. Thanks for making it all the way to the back end of this video. If you missed that one, why not check out the 52 that I bought last year, or have a look at my collection as it stood at the end of 2021. Thanks for watching. See you all again in a future video, I hope.